Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory podcast. If you're on YouTube, welcome. If you're listening in your podcast app, welcome as well. I hope you subscribe either to the channel or to the podcast, and you leave a review after listening to some cases and let me know what you think about it. I would truly appreciate that. Now, today we're going to talk about a recent case, 2020 case that's been on the news and it's been talked about, but I don't think enough. And this is the case of Amie Harwick. She was a little controversial while she was working in Hollywood, and after what happened to her, she seems to stay in the headlines, and for a good reason. Some people find this case like a contradiction, and some other people think that this is a perfect example of somebody reporting a stalker or going to the authorities and not getting the help needed. We don't have the laws needed to protect ourselves. So this kind of stirred up a debate and the need for new laws, when new ways or new crimes, or I don't even know how to call it, something that it's more popular now becomes an issue, like it did for Amie. Now, since this is a recent case, there is not much information about trials and, like your typical older close case. But I went through a few sources, and as always, I compare and try to find the most accurate information. And I also watched a documentary about it. Again, the documentary included more the need in some people that went through something like this, and the need for new laws for protection in this kind of case. But let me tell you about Amie. She was born on May 21st, 1982. So she was a few months older than me, or would have been. I couldn't find much about her childhood per se, but again, we do know more of her later years. Like, she received her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from California Polytechnic University in Pomona, California. Now, she was a really smart girl, so she later obtained her Master's of Arts and degree in Clinical Psychology with an emphasis on marriage and family therapy from Pepperdine University. And then, if that wasn't enough, she went on to receive her doctorate of human sexuality from the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality. So you get an idea. She was a very smart girl. She knew exactly what she wanted to go for, and she had a mission. So she took the steps to go to school and make an impact in what she was so passionate about. She worked with clients in different parts of her expertise. It was not only sexuality, like it was in the end, that only that, but she actually had a lot of cases of depression, anxiety, juvenile sex offenders, sexually exploited teenagers, I mean, children with trauma, divorce, chronic pain, sex addictions, sexual identity, bipolar disorders, domestic violence. I mean, it goes on and on. She was very young, but she really worked with the people that she wanted to help. She, for that reason, won awards for multicultural knowledge and awareness regarding displaced children. I mean, she was really good at her job and had a genuine will to help people. And I think that's what sometimes you see people lacking off. And you go see a doctor that disregards everything that you tell him. It's almost like, you're bothering me. You have a virus, take ibuprofen, go home. And then you get the other doctor, and the more passionate, the one that really cares, the one that it has that calling for helping people. And you know that he is looking at you, he's thinking, he's looking up stuff, he's going into rare things, he does all the tests, he sends you the medicine. And when it's a virus, at least takes the time to explore every possibility before telling you to go home. You will be fine. That kind of difference. And if you've been around for some time in this earth, you know what I'm talking about. This goes to police officers, teachers in your school. That kind of people that has a career, but they take it to the next level, and they're extraordinarily helpful in what they do. Now, in 2012, I'm going to jump ahead a bit and then I'll go back. Amie, got an internship with Mushumi Gus. Probably butchering her name, but that internship launched her career. According to her boss there, she described Amie as a super positive person. I mean, somebody that was full of energy. She also said that Amie was very passionate about her field of psychology, mental health, and that she specialized in sex therapy because she was trying to help people see sexuality in a different way. She was so good at that soon enough she had her own practice. She had her own YouTube channel. She really had the need to help people that usually get marginalized by society. And one of the examples of that was she was very passionate about talking and explaining and kind of helping other people see sex workers in a different light. She wanted to build bridges. She wanted people to heal. She just wanted people to be mindful of each other, care about each other, but not judge for particular decisions that one can make. But that was in 2012. We have to go back a year. Let's go back to 2011, because just before she got this boost in her career, she met this guy, Gareth Burshouse. He was a software engineer. He was also a photographer, and it was said that he was a wannabe comedian. Now, she didn't meet the guy per se in 2011. She actually met him in 2008 during a photo shoot for benchwarmer training cards that featured attractive women, and Amie was one of the models. So, remember, this was before she got her own practice, and so before that, she was a model. She met this guy in one of those photo shoots. he's a handsome guy. I mean, handsome guy. He was very personable, smart, and he had something that a lot of girls like. He was that guy, the one that everyone wanted to date. And he knew it, so he used it for his advantage. He was loud, he was charming, goofy, kind of dorky at times. But overall, he was described as a guy, a fun guy to be around. Now, another part of him that I kind of mentioned in the beginning, that he was also known for his goofy social media presence. So he would make funny references to popular TV shows like Game of Thrones. And I have to make this reference because it will tie in the end with what happened here, okay? And one of the Game of Thrones references, I don't watch Game of Thrones. Please, don't hate me for it. I watched one episode and it was too TV mature for my taste. I don't know. Just my personal liking and not liking. So I didn't see this per se. I just read about it. Apparently there's a scene where the brother and the sister are up in a castle and the brother has to go and he's telling this. This is like a joke on his Instagram. Okay. So the brother has to go and throw the kid off to kill him. That's what he's saying. And even though it's evil, he said, he said that he was feeling bad for the brother because even though he doesn't have to do it, his sister insisted. And then he laughed. So not insisted, but incested, like incest. I don't find it funny, but I didn't watch it. So I didn't see that episode. So I'm pretty sure that for some people that might be funny. It won't be funny in the end of the story, okay? So just keep that joke in mind. Now, some of the couple's close friends were interviewed in this documentary, and they said that they had no idea how the relationship was really like. On the outside, they looked like a great couple. They were both good looking. They were both somewhat doing good in their jobs. This was before Amie got that boost in her career, and it looked like a good couple. But Amie knew things were not right. She had a suspicion that somehow Gareth accessed her computer. Okay, the boyfriend got a hold of her computer. He's a software engineer, so I'm pretty sure he can manage around that. And he started, and again, this is what Amie suspected, but she suspected that he accessed her computer and started sending nude pictures of her to potential employers, which cost her jobs. Remember, 2011, so she was still kind of bouncing around getting different jobs. Again, great at her job, but nothing successful as she would get in 2012. So he was, according to one of her friends, Gareth was like a hacker, programmer. So they knew that he had the ability to do something like that. Maybe he did install something in her computer without having to take something physically, the computer itself. I don't know. I'm not good at computers. I guess it's possible. But listen, just coming up with a blog, it's like a mind-boggling thing to me. And I've been working on this blog for a really long time, so I'm not the kind of girl that you'd ask for this, but I guess it's possible, right? I mean, her computer was wiped. According to Amie's friend, not even Windows was there. something happened to that computer. And then all of a sudden, the picture started to show up to potential employers. And how sick would that be? I mean, think about it. You're with this guy. He's supposed to be your boyfriend. And then all of a sudden, he takes nude pictures of you and send them to your employers. Not that I would keep that kind of picture on my computer. Not that I would take that kind of picture. But if you do, I mean, more power to you. But it's kind of messed up, isn't it? You think that that would be the last person who would want to send a nude picture of you. I would think. Maybe I'm old school. But on top of that, there was a lot of yelling, according to Amie. Her fights. And there was one incident when she mentions that she threw a pillow at him and he got so mad that he grabbed her and hit her head against the floor. Okay, I don't know the context of that. That is what she wrote in a court thing that I'll talk about in a minute. But I don't know if they were like pillow fighting and he got mad, or maybe they were having an argument and she got frustrated and she threw the pillow. I don't know the context. It doesn't really matter, right? I mean, you shouldn't be doing that to anybody, period. But just so you know, I don't really know what was the context of what happened there, and she didn't mention it on that paper. Now, in June of 2011, she went to court and she said that she wanted a restraining order, that she was afraid of him. I mean, who wouldn't be? Apparently, she also wrote in one of those papers that she filed that he pushed her out of a car once in the side of the freeway. In other instances, he would suffocate her. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad, and I don't blame her. So she also wrote in the protection order request, or whatever you call it, that he choked her, suffocated her, pushed her against walls, kicked her, dropped her to the ground with force, restrained her, slammed her head into the ground, punched her with a closed fist. And so after all that, he was ordered to stay away from her, and he did so. So she moved on. Okay, so that was 2011. Probably the worst year of her life. Probably she thought, well, now I can finally move on. But how sick is that? I mean, the psychologist, the doctor who's fighting against domestic violence is now suffering it. I think it must have been something like, really? Really, is this happening to me? Did I pick this guy? Now, again, on 2012, she got at that internship, then her own practice. It was all better. It was all for the better for at least Amie. And he never got over it, per se. I mean, he started talking to friends that they had in common, send her this lyric, send her this music, tell her I miss her. But still, he stayed away. Now, Amie had another job, a more fun job, I would say. At least for her. She seemed over the moon happy in this job. Apparently, she learned how to do the batons. I don't even know how to say that. Okay. She light them on fire. She blew fire out of her mouth. I mean, she was a performer. She was also working as a model, and she was also a talented photographer. So, I mean, yeah, she was a doctor during the day, but she was also so much more at night. And then she met Drew Carey, the host of CBS The Price is Right show. They met, they clicked, they dated, and soon enough she was engaged to him. You probably know her because she was engaged to this guy. Maybe not, but most people did. They loved each other. I mean, it was good for both of them, according to Amie's friends. But in November of 2018, so 10 months after getting engaged, they called it off. They said they work on the disagreements that they had, but it was just not good. So they decided to part with their own ways. But in January of 2020, I'm talking a few months ago, things changed. Amie and Hernando Chavez, which was also a therapist, I think. I'm pretty sure that that's what he was. But he was a friend of Amie's. So they were driving to a celebration of the adult industry in Hollywood. She was very excited to go. I mean, she wanted to go through the red carpet, get her picture taken. Remember, she modeled for the camera. She had a really kind of small but not too revealing but sexy dress. It was perfect. Until she saw one of the photographers that threw her back in time, to a dark time. That photographer was Gareth, the abusive ex-boyfriend. Not only that, but he looked upset, agitated, distressed. I mean, the guy's a photographer. He could have just got the job and then, kind of, oh my goodness, there's Amie, a coincidence. But people believe, and there's proof that he's been stalking her. And so he more than likely got that job because she was going. I don't have any proof of that. I couldn't find a paper. I couldn't find a police something saying, statement, anything saying that the guy knew that she was going to be there. But I'm assuming he did because of the stalking that she was enduring. But I don't know if that's what triggered the whole thing. A coincidence. I can't tell you. Apparently, a guy decided, why not? She's here. I'll yell to her face, you ruined my life. Remember that text that you sent me in 2012? I mean, it was a big scene. It was ridiculous that the guy could remember and actually quote a text message. She got scared, and she later called a friend and said, here's my location. If anything happens to me, you know who did it. And she was referring to Gareth. Now, all this kind of made her a little bit more open about her past, particularly with Danny Beck, the guy that she dated after Drew Carey. And this encounter with Garrett made her more open, and so she wanted to tell him about the real abuse that she endured. She told him that he was obsessed with her and that he was always stalking her. I don't know how much proof she presented to him or if this was a casual conversation, but being there at that place, meeting him there, it was just the beginning. I mean, the guy threw himself to the floor in a fetal position. He was sobbing. He was screaming. He was a mess. I mean, he didn't just pull her to the side and say, hey, Amie, let's have a weird conversation about the text message I sent to you or you sent to me in 2011 or 2012, whatever. This was a bit too much. I mean, the guy made a scene, and the kind of scene that you think he just needs attention. He probably just wants the cameras pointed at him. Look at him, poor guy. Look at Amie, she's evil. I don't know. But a month later, on February 14th, 2020, Amie went out with friends, and when she came back to her house, mind you, she lived in the Hollywood Hills. She was doing really well. She started texting a friend, and he sent the last text to Amie at 11 p.m., but she replied to him at around 1 a.m. Now, let's fast forward to the next morning, okay? That is on February 15th. That friend checked his phone and he had 2 calls. But they were not from Amie, they were from Amie's roommate. Which was kind of weird because this friend of Amie was not friends with the roommate. But then he receives a message saying that Amie has been assaulted and that he needed to go to the police station. When he got to the police station, he was informed that after they were texting that night, remember, he was texting with her, an intruder came into her house and attacked her. So he basically strangled her and then threw her from the balcony. Some people call that poetic because of the Game of Thrones reference, but I find it creepy and almost something, I don't know. It's just sick. She was taken to the hospital, but later she died. I mean, Amie, the friend and a famed Hollywood therapist, was killed. And it seemed like it was a case of domestic violence, the very thing that she was fighting against. News started to pop everywhere about her, and they had a number 1 suspect immediately, and that was Gareth. I mean, after all that meltdown that he had a month prior in the red carpet event, there is proof that he was stalking her. He was asking those friends for favors, creepy stuff. It would only make sense in his sick mind to go to her house on Valentine's Day to do this. It's just, I'm going to give you some statistics because this is serious, guys. I don't know how much you know about this, but 1 in 6 women and 1 in 19 men in the United States have experienced stalking victimization at some point during their lifetime in which they felt very fearful or believed that they or someone close to them would be harmed or killed. According to the National Center for Victims of Crime, over 1 million women and 370,000 men are stalked annually in the United States. 2/3 of female victims of stalking were stalked by a current or former intimate partner. Men were primarily stalked by an intimate partner or an acquaintance, respectively. And this is normal people, okay? I'm not talking about Hollywood people. And I'm not even talking about somebody with Annie's background. I'm not talking about a doctor. There was a part in the documentary that they asked this other therapist and said, is it possible that the doctor couldn't see it? And the therapist said, well, somebody with deep knowledge of what this is really can still underestimate the danger. And she continues saying, you want to believe that people aren't capable of doing something so terrible. A violent person is a violent person, and they can retaliate at any time, according to this expert. So this is not something that happened to somebody in California or in Beverly Hills, or because she was famous, I mean, this guy knew her even before she became the doctor that we knew after that internship that pushed her up. He knew her before she had that successful YouTube channel where she talked about this very thing. How to get over an ex, stalkers and domestic violence. And she even had that video of what you need to do. And I'm going to go through this 3 steps just in case you or somebody is suffering from this. Somebody's stalking you. It might be flattering at first, but then it gets scary, and then it becomes dangerous. So, number 1, make a safety plan and notify law enforcement. Make a police report. That is the number 1 thing. You need proof that it's been going on for a while. Number 2, she said to save everything, text messages, letters, emails. It is really important to have that kind of evidence. And number 3, speak up. Tell your close family, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. You need a support system to get out of this. But hey, Amie did all that. She even blocked the guy. She got a restraining order. She had a security gate in her house, security cameras, and still this happened to her. The girl giving the advice on how to survive a dangerous relationship, how to survive a stalker, how to survive domestic violence. Is this to make you feel bad and like there's no way out? No. But I read about this petition that's been endorsed by Drew Carey, her ex-fiance, and they just have this petition to make changes to domestic violence legislation. I mean, the law needs to change. Now, even after leaving the world, Amie's leaving a legacy. Sadly, she's the face of every woman suffering from domestic violence. She's the doctor who suffered domestic violence. She's the doctor who suffered the stalking. So, she's also the face of she did everything right and this still happened to her. So the system at this point, in some cases, is not able to protect the victims. So we need to make a change. We need to prevent this somehow. With mandatory classes, I don't care if it's included in your high school education, but there must be something we can do and educate people of what is okay and what is not okay. And I want to finish this by telling you about a little something that happened to me. I met this woman at camp. We were camping, and they were doing some kind of documentary blog style thing, and there was this part of where she gets filmed, right? It was all part of the camp, and I guess nobody cared if you were going to be filmed looking into the sunset, or maybe your tent. But I remember this person being so afraid of being in camera and kind of hiding and not saying anything, like, don't record me. She wouldn't say that, but she would just go whenever a camera was pulled out, whenever a phone, she would move to another location, even her tent. And I'm not going to go into the details of what kind of camp, what we were doing there, why I was meeting all these people, why I was camping with all these people, because of out of respect for her. But, there was one night we were just talking and having some tea. And she opened up and she said, I've been running away from my husband for 20 years. And I said, no way. How can you, why would you do that? And how can you do that for so many years? And she said, I've been living out of my car for 20 years. I've been traveling and keeping up where he is to be on the opposite side of the country. And she kind of explained why she didn't want to be on camera, and how an innocent Facebook video, YouTube video, or even something bigger like the documentary could really give a hint to this guy that's been away from her because she chose to be away from him for 20 years. But she also said how he promised her that if he could find her, he was gonna kill her. That is the kind of thing that somebody's doing today to run away from certain death in some cases. So she left everything. And she decided to be nobody. To kind of move with the wind. And stay away from family. Stay away from friends. In order to keep her life. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Yes, she's safe. Yes, he doesn't know where she is. But living in fear. Living thinking, okay, I'm sleeping in this tent in Yellowstone or whatever, wherever I am. And what if he knows that I'm here? That kind of bothers me, just to think that somebody will have to live in fear and away from the people that they love, like their family and friends, forever. So what kind of life is that? She said that she tried to report. She did report him a few times. She got a restraining order, but he still would show up at places, and apparently he was some kind of I don't know if he's in law enforcement, if he has friends in law enforcement, if he's in the military, but he's a guy with connections, and so she's afraid of the system because of this. If you asked me today, if you sat down with me and over coffee you said, well, what's your plan? I would have to really think that through. How can we just change this? Yes, we do need to change the laws. Yes, we need to make it, but how can we change people? I mean, we can't. But it's so sad to know that she's living that life. And I wish that there was something she could do, go into some kind of a witness protection program. And even if he didn't go to jail, but at least that she would go under a different name, live in a different part of the country. And she said, I don't think I'd feel safe that way either. So this case is like one of those things that leaves me, again, empty. okay, this is a problem. How are we going to fix it? Okay, we need to change the laws. We need to make them firmer. We need to be more just and not care the connections that they may have or the career that they have or who they know in a court. Yes, that is something we can do and we must do. But how can you change somebody that thinks that way? How can you change the mind of a stalker? How can you stop somebody before they become a stalker? What is it that we can do? I guess it just goes back to, is it your upbringing? Is it how you grew up? Is it the environment? Was it the parents? Because I read about cases like the Skylar case. Remember, we talked about in a podcast recently. You know, he got married to this girl, and the girl was the daughter of a Christian couple who never got a problem with the police, who were doing okay, good, hard-working people, and then the girl was plain evil. I mean, it's almost like, okay, we can help by being good parents, by giving a good example, good education, setting boundaries. But when do we decide if this is something that they were born with, or if this is something that can be influenced? I guess the only way to figure that one out is, or to try to help, is to raise your children the best way you can. Be the best example that somebody can be out there for them. Give them the best of you. Be patient, be respectful, listen to what they want to say. You know, a relationship is two ways. You have to listen. And yes, you can talk, but they deserve the same respect you do too. And then hope for the best. Because really, we come back to my question. Is some people born evil? I mean, is there something in their brain that makes them that way? Is it something that they're wired incorrectly? And I'm talking about physically incorrect? Or is it something deeper? Or is it something like your soul? If you believe in that. Is somebody with a dark soul born into the world? Can a baby be born with a dark soul? Or is it something physical that prevents them from being the best that they can be? Is it the environment part of it? Is there some kind of a precondition that worsens with a bad childhood? I don't know. So many questions I have no idea the answer to. I really don't. But in case you wonder, that's why I started this podcast, and that's why I started the YouTube channel. In the hopes that one day we will figure it out. That a great psychologist, that a great psychiatrist comes to us with proof that there is a scientific reason, because I want to believe that there is a scientific reason for people being evil and doing this kind of things. To get married to somebody, to promise them that you will take care of them till death do us apart, and then decide that you, the very person who promised to take care of that person, or, you know, even started a relationship. In the case of Amie, now wants to do the complete opposite, and instead of loving them, you want to hurt them? How can that go? I mean, no. How's that work? I guess I don't know. But I'd love to know what you think about it. I would love to know what you think about this case, but more importantly, I want to know, what do you think we can do better as society, as people, as parents, as teachers, as law enforcement, legislators? I mean, we're going through a time, I'm not going to go into politics, but we're going through a time where everything is up and down and you don't know what's going to happen. You know, the polls say one thing, other things happen. And it kind of takes me back of the last elections where, you know, people said one thing, the polls said one thing, and then another thing happened. And it's like, okay, what can we trust now? I mean, things are up and down, and one day is one thing and the next thing is another thing. And there's nothing that can give us, you know, that little bit of, oh, maybe I know who's gonna be, you know, elected for the Democrat Party, or, you know, whatever party. Maybe I know because, you know, you could tell a few years ago who you think would be and then you'd wait and be like, ha, I was right, I knew it. And now it's like, well, I don't know. It really is up in the air, and I'll know when the numbers are in. And so if there's uncertainty in that kind of thing, how can we make changes to something that is important to us, but maybe not as important as other matters in this big country? I don't know. I love to know what you think about this and what you think we should do about it. What we can do to improve. What us, as parents, as people, as mentors, as aunts and uncles and neighbors, what we can do to help in this matter that seems so hopeless and so in need of a change. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate all the feedback and all your comments. Please take the time to do so. I will be continue working on my blog that I have attached to this podcast, so people can go and listen to the podcast there. I also want to share other things that maybe don't make it into the videos or the podcast. So as soon as that is up, I will let you guys know. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you're listening this on Sunday on the podcast, if not, and you're listening on YouTube, it's hump day. Yay. Almost there. Okay. I'll bless you all as always. Talk to you guys soon.